The restaurant went silent the moment Aurora Vale walked in. Her heels struck the marble floor like thunder, sharp, commanding, impossible to ignore. Waiters who had been laughing moments ago froze mid-motion, glancing at one another in panic. The head server whispered a warning to a new trainee. Don't go near her table unless you want to lose your job. Everyone in the Golden Terrace bistro knew who she was. The untouchable billionaire heiress. Known not for her success, but for her temper. Aurora was the woman who had once made a waitress cry for spilling a glass of water. The woman whose eyes could cut sharper than any blade. But on that bright afternoon, as the sunlight glimmered across the city skyline through the tall windows, a single father named Evan Cross sat at a corner table with his little daughter, unaware that fate was about to seed a storm right across from him. If you believe in kindness, redemption, and second chances, then please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness Journal. Your support helps us share more heart-touching, real-life-inspired stories that remind us what truly matters. Aurora's assistant guided her to her reserved table, directly beside where Evan and his daughter sat. The restaurant staff visibly relaxed once she was seated, but no one dared approach. The manager himself took her order, his hands trembling slightly as he held the notepad. Aurora didn't even look up. She spoke curtly, her voice cool and detached. Make sure the water is cold, not room temperature. Last time you served me lukewarm disappointment. The manager nodded nervously, bowing away as though escaping a battlefield. Evan glanced up briefly. His daughter Maya, barely 7 years old, was coloring quietly beside him, her crayon spread out like a rainbow on the white tablecloth. Evan smiled softly, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. He had brought her here as a treat. It was her birthday. He couldn't afford lavish gifts, not on a teacher's salary, but this lunch together was special. After losing his wife 2 years ago, every smile from Maya felt like sunlight breaking through rain. But as Aurora's voice sliced through the air again, complaining about the table setting, the window glare, the faint hum of the air conditioner, Evan couldn't help but notice the emptiness behind her anger. She was beautiful, yes, in that cold, sculpted way. Every strand of her blonde hair perfectly in place, her jewelry understated but worth more than his entire year's income. Yet, there was something hollow in her eyes, a kind of loneliness that even wealth couldn't hide. The waiter returned nervously with her drink. She took one sip, frowned, and pushed it away. "This isn't cold enough," she said sharply. "Do I have to donate another refrigerator to this place to get simple service?" The poor waiter muttered an apology and rushed off, nearly tripping in his haste. Around her, the restaurant seemed to hold its breath. No one wanted to be her next target. Evan turned back to Maya, but she was watching Aurora with innocent curiosity. "Daddy," she whispered softly, "why is that lady so sad?" Evan smiled faintly at his daughter's choice of words. "She's not sad, sweetheart, she's just having a bad day," he said gently. But even as he spoke, he knew Maya's instinct was right. There was sadness there, buried beneath all that pride and bitterness. A few minutes later, the waiter returned again, this time with trembling hands carrying another glass. Aurora's expression didn't soften. "You've already wasted my time," she snapped, standing abruptly. "Forget it. Just bring me my meal before I lose my patience completely." The waiter's face turned pale as he nodded and fled. Evan couldn't hold his silence anymore. "Excuse me," he said quietly, turning toward her. Aurora looked at him, startled as if unaccustomed to anyone daring to speak back. "I think you could try being a little kinder," he said, voice steady but calm. "He's doing his best." The restaurant seemed to freeze again. All eyes turned to them. No one had ever spoken to Aurora Vale that way, not publicly, not calmly. Aurora's gaze turned icy. "And who exactly are you to lecture me on manners?" she asked coldly. "Just a man teaching his daughter how to treat people?" Ivan replied, still soft-spoken but firm. "Even when life doesn't give you what you want." Aurora blinked, momentarily speechless. Her instinct was to lash out, to humiliate him. But something in his tone disarmed her. He wasn't trying to challenge her. He was simply reminding her. Her eyes darted to the little girl beside him, who smiled up at her without a trace of fear or judgment. Aurora quickly looked away, muttering under her breath, "You have no idea who you're talking to." "No," Ivan said gently, "but maybe that's the problem. No one does." The words lingered. Aurora sat down slowly, trying to compose herself, but her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her napkin. For the first time, her confident mask cracked. The food arrived, and she barely touched it. Across from her, Evan and Maya ate quietly, sharing small jokes, laughter bubbling between bites. Maya offered her father a piece of bread, and he took it with exaggerated gratitude, making her giggle. Aurora glanced at them, something tightening in her chest. When she was little, she had shared meals like that with her father, a kind man who had taught her to work hard, but also to never forget compassion. But when he passed away, everything changed. Her mother took over the business empire, and emotions became a liability. Aurora had built walls so high even she couldn't see over them anymore. Every betrayal, every fake smile from those chasing her wealth had turned her colder. Success became her armor. Now, watching that father and daughter, she felt something she hadn't in years, a flicker of longing. Her trance broke when Maya suddenly dropped her crayon. It rolled under Aurora's table. Maya hesitated, then crawled under to retrieve it. Aurora flinched as the little girl bumped her shoe. "Sorry," Maya said sweetly, holding up the crayon. Aurora stared down at her, startled by the child's innocent smile. "You don't have to apologize," she murmured awkwardly. "You looked sad," Maya said softly. "Mummy used to look sad like that too. Daddy says hugs help." Aurora froze. For a second, she thought she misheard. But before she could react, Maya stood and, without hesitation, wrapped her tiny arms around Aurora's waist. Gasp rippled through the restaurant. Avon started to rise, apologizing quickly, but Aurora just sat there motionless, her eyes wide as tears welled unexpectedly. The warmth of that small, innocent hug shattered something deep inside her. When Maya pulled away, Aurora's voice trembled. "Thank you," she whispered, the words catching in her throat. After that moment, something changed. She called the waiter back, her tone gentle for the first time. "I'm sorry for earlier," she said quietly. "I shouldn't have spoken to you like that." The young man nodded, shocked but visibly relieved. The other staff exchanged glances, whispering among themselves. Evan gave her a small nod of approval, and she met his eyes with a faint, vulnerable smile. For the rest of the meal, Aurora sat quietly, occasionally glancing at Maya's laughter, as if trying to memorize the sound. When the check came, Aurora insisted on paying for both tables. Evan protested, but she simply said, "Please, let me do one decent thing today." He finally agreed, seeing the sincerity in her eyes. As they stood to leave, Aurora hesitated. "You're a good father," she said softly. "And your daughter, she has a heart that could change the world." Evan smiled. "Maybe she already has." Aurora laughed quietly, a sound she hadn't made in years. She turned to Maya and knelt slightly. "Thank you for reminding me what kindness feels like." Maya smiled brightly. "You're welcome, miss." "Maybe next time you can smile first before being mad." Aurora chuckled again, wiping her eyes. "I'll try, little one. I promise." That afternoon, as Evan and Maya left the restaurant hand in hand, Aurora stayed behind for a moment. She looked around the place that had once been her stage for control, and felt something unfamiliar, peace. She took out her phone and called her assistant. "Cancel the rest of my day," she said. "There's someone I need to visit." Hours later, Aurora found herself at her father's old grave, a place she hadn't been in over 5 years. The city lights flickered behind her as she stood in silence, placing a single white lily on the headstone. "I forgot what you taught me," she whispered. "But today, a little girl reminded me." Her voice cracked, but her heart felt lighter than it had in years. From that day forward, something in Aurora changed. She began treating her staff differently, by name, with gratitude. The rumor of her transformation spread faster than her reputation for cruelty ever did. People started to see a different Aurora Vale, the woman behind the armor. And while not everyone believed it at first, those who worked close to her noticed the sharpness in her tone had softened, the coldness in her eyes had thawed. She had learned, finally, that strength wasn't about control, it was about compassion. Weeks later, Evan received an unexpected envelope in the mail. Inside was a handwritten note: "To the man who reminded me that kindness is not weakness, and to the little girl who gave it freely when no one else would. From Aurora Vale." Attached was a donation receipt for a children's art foundation in Maya's name. Evan smiled as he read it, pride swelling in his chest. When he showed it to Maya, she beamed. "See, Daddy." She smiled first this time. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Every click helps us spread more real and emotional stories that remind the world how powerful simple kindness can be. And before you go, comment below, do you believe even the coldest hearts can be warmed by kindness? Because sometimes, it only takes one small act of love to melt a lifetime of ice.